Christians often fall short in a variety of ways when it comes to dealing with culture, when it comes to being in the world but not of the world. And to me, there is a plethora of ways that this gets fumbled, but I think what I want to talk about today is the most egregious one. Okay? And it is the notion, the consideration, the engagement of how we are, as followers of Jesus, to engage with pleasure, with good things, and not allow them to become God things. Now, I got one Bible verse it's not this extreme, but I do think that the downstream effects of this affect all of us. And so I'm going to be getting into this here. And if you're new here, if you're not new here, hit that subscribe button. This is a new series we're going to try. It's going to be more of a fireside chat, if you will, okay? Because I think we enjoy making part video essay, talking head, podcasting, but I think sometimes we just need to just have a conversation. And I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. If I think about my own journey in terms of just allowing God to sanctify different parts of my life, allowing God to sanctify not just my spiritual life, and if I'm going to church, if I'm reading my Bible, which is all extremely important, I talk about often, but if I think about the other areas that surround my life, that I would say are an overflow of how I'm engaging in the scriptures, how I'm engaging in prayer, how I'm engaging with those spiritual disciplines, staying consistent in my prayer journal, staying consistent in these other areas. I think from those areas flows out how God then deals and guides me and deals with me in other areas of life, specifically how I engage with pleasure, how I engage with dopamine, how I engage with delaying gratification versus enjoying good things but not allowing them to be God things, okay? And this verse popped up today while I was doing my daily Proverbs. This is Proverbs chapter 25, verse 16. It says, "If you find honey, eat just enough, too much of it, and you will vomit." If you find honey, eat just enough, too much of it, and you will vomit. This is a perplexing passage for most Christians, especially if you lean towards a more fundamentalist approach. So here, in context, honey is something you can consume, yet the overconsumption of honey can cause you to vomit, which is clearly in this verse what you don't want to do, okay? So if you find it, eat just enough, not too much of it, and you will vomit. In Christian circles, we do goofy stuff. We read Jesus' first miracle, and we go, yeah, I know it says that he turned water into wine, and I know that the guy who was hosting the party came out and said that you can get drunk off the wine, basically. People save the worst wine for last because people have had too much to drink. So it seems like you can get drunk of it. We see Jesus being accused of being a drunkard. Why? Because he drank wine. But we're just going to say all alcohol is evil. And, wine, even though we know what it is scripturally and historically, wine it's just grape juice. This is me saying someone that doesn't drink wine. I don't drink at all, but I can acknowledge that in the scriptures, there is clear alcohol that can clearly be overconsumed. And here's the deal. Most good things can become God things. It's not just wine. It's also food. It's not just crack cocaine that you're abusing. It's also sex. It's not just, hey, I'm going to bury my talents. It's also being prideful and being puffed up. That often, the prideful and being puffed up is oftentimes from a place of wanting to be faithful, and then you become prideful, you start forgetting what God did, and something that was good, faithful, can become a God thing. Man, oh man, do we fall short in this. And we fumble it, and we miss the mark on this a lot. And what I love about this verse is what this is really getting at, believe it or not, is this is getting at something that we don't like to talk about, which is not abstinence. Oh, just avoid everything. Avoid the world, avoid your non-Christian friends, avoid secular media, avoid secular TV shows, avoid it all. That's easy, right? When I was young, I remember when someone would get saved, everybody would get together and they would take all their secular CDs, they'd break them, sometimes they'd burn them, and they'd get rid of all the secular stuff. That's a real simplistic way of dealing with culture and society. Anything that's not of God, you just get rid of it, you throw it away, and if it brings you pleasure, it's bad. This is saying something opposite. This is saying that there are things that God creates, like honey, that are good, and we are to have just enough and not overindulge, not overconsume, not overdo it. Why? Because they will cost us something. They will cost us to vomit. They will cost us discomfort. They will cost us something that we don't need to experience. And so navigating this can be extremely difficult for especially young Christians, more legalistic Christians, more fundamentalist Christians, navigating this of how do you get just enough and not too much? Because if you get too much, you will vomit. Now, I'm in a place, and I've talked about this before, where I had an amazing physical transformation, where I got onto a program with my coach, JT, the Empty Your Bucket Plan. And right now, I'm putting myself back on phase 1. Had a lot of food during the holidays, got my weight back up to where I wouldn't like it. And so I'm doing something right now, which is phase 1. And phase 1 is very interesting. And I didn't really understand it until today, maybe yesterday. Phase 1 is glycogen depletion. Now, what is glycogen? Glycogen is what is stored in your body after you consume glucose. Glucose is usually what you're getting from carbs, okay? Most of us are using glucose, which then converts to glycogen, as energy, okay? So you are consuming carbs, consuming breads, consuming pastas, consuming fruit, consuming things, and that gets converted into glycogen, and then the glycogen is your fuel source. Now, I'm going somewhere with this, so just follow me. Now, what I'm doing right now is to expedite my own fat-burning process. I am depleting my body of glycogen. People think, oh, that's a fad. Oh, that's a you shouldn't do that. It's not good for you, right? So when you're depleting your body of glycogen, what's basically happening is you avoid starchy foods, processed foods, carbs, anything with glucose or fructose. You're depleting your body of it. Some people would say this is what happens when you enter ketosis, right? You deplete your body of glycogen, and what happens is you tap into fat burning faster. It's not the glycogen that's making you fat. It's the overconsumption of food that's making you fat. And so depleting my body of glycogen gets the water weight off really fast, all the fluids stored from carbs, carbohydrate, water weight, right? Carbohydrate, the salts, the sodium. So it's depleting that, and then it gets me into fat burning, getting rid of the fat faster. I don't have that much fat on me, but I want to get into a more elite level of shape. I want to get back under 15% body fat. I'm still within a healthy range, healthy BMI, but I would like to be leaner. And so this is a process that elite athletes use, believe it or not. That bodybuilders use, that people that need to really get lean, they deplete themselves of glycogen, which gets them to burn the fat reserves faster. Your body starts burning fat when you exercise, when you walk, when you strength train. Your body is burning fat instead of the glycogen that it's used to burning. I say all that to say, where I'm at right now, I'm not eating honey. I'm not eating honey. Honey is a good thing to find. I'm not eating just enough. I'm going through a season of abstinence from the good things so that I could have a plan to use the good things to my advantage and not overindulge. I'm going through a season of let me deplete my body of the honey, which by the way causes glycogen retention and glucose, of all these things. Let me deplete my body of that so that I can then rebuild and use the good thing to get me to my goal, to be a vehicle, to get the glycogen to help me put on muscle. And sometimes we need to take self-inventory and figure out where are we in this process. Are you in a place where you can manage certain things? You can go out. You can go have yummy food. You can go spend money. You can indulge. Or are you in a season right now where maybe you need to scale things back? You can't have too much of it. It's better. You can't control when you have too much of it, so it's better you just don't have anything at all. This is how I am with alcohol. This is how I am with a lot of things, believe it or not. It's just easier for me just to restrain and avoid. Not because I think I'm more righteous than you. Not because I think I'm more holy than you. Not because I think that I'm a better Christian than you. Because I know myself. And I know that I'm actually the weaker brother. I know that I'm the one that's going to overindulge and overconsume. Right? And so when it comes to food, it's just simpler right now. And now I have a plan of when I get my body back to under 15% body fat, I got a plan on how to start using the glycogen and using just enough, but not too much of it, to be the vehicle to get me to where I want to get to. I think if more of us understood the science around these things, but also understood the impacts on ourselves and our own bodies, knew what we were talking about, knew the season of life we were in, knew our own weaknesses, knew our own shortcomings and pitfalls, I think we could be way more efficient as followers of Jesus. That's my opinion. Chicken, broccoli, bone broth. I had a steak for lunch. shrimp. I feel amazing. I feel amazing. The issue becomes, bring it all the way full circle. I think the reason why we struggle with this is we think that something we're doing temporarily, I'm specifically reducing glycogen because I have fat boy tendencies. I'm the weaker brother. You may be not listening to any secular music or not listening to watching secular TV or not listening to secular podcasts or whatever. Fill in the blank, whatever the thing is for you that this is the issue becomes is when we take our weakness and we project it on everybody else and judge everybody else. In that sense, we have become the older brother in the parable of the prodigal. We become the older brother. We become the religious one. So notice in this entire conversation what I said. We struggle with this because we don't know moderation and we don't want to learn moderation. We probably don't understand ourselves. We don't know our own triggers. 2, moderation is good, but sometimes abstinence is better. 3, abstinence should not be used to weaponize against other followers of Jesus and tell them to make better decisions and they're bad and you're good and you're smart and you're right. Oftentimes what people really need is for you to love and lead by example. We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. 1, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And 2, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.